Hello, hello. Hi. Hi,
Are you gonna stick around a while? Okay.
Is this what I wore the last time I went to Africa?
The last time she talked about Africa, yes.
Yes. I try to wear it every time I talk about South Africa. Because I know it's weird, but it was a special gift from South Africa that I got, so it means something to me. Yeah. And I forgot this really awesome gift that was given when we came. We were given several gifts this time whenever we went to South Africa, and there was a really special one I forgot to bring in, so I got to tell you about it. And then if you come next week, I'll bring it because I want to keep it here at the church. But it was an anointing horn, and so King David was anointed with an anointing horn. And it's basically this horn that was filled with anointing oil and then poured out over him. And so anyway, someone handmade me this anointing horn that's from a kudu. And do you have the shofar too? Okay. Oh, no, not that one. Different one. So one of the cool things that happened, well, before we went, the Lord showed us just a little bit of what we were supposed to be doing when we were there. This is kind of how it works with us. And anyway, one of the things that he said was that we needed to blow a shofar, but I forgot to tell Kim that, and I totally forgot to bring it. And so we were getting on the plane, I'm like, oh, we're supposed to bring the shofar, and I forgot. And so anyway, we were at our first place that we went was in Cape Town. And we stayed at this place outside of Cape Town called the Duclos Lodge. And I wish that we would have been more prepared and sent a bunch of pictures in, because you're not going to see very many pictures. Or any, I'm not sure.
We'll see no pictures.
Okay, but if you want to see pictures, you can always go up on Facebook or something and look at pictures, because we post a lot. But anyway, at this lodge, it was like at the base of these huge mountains, and it was beautiful. In fact, the last day we were there were these gorgeous waterfalls that were coming down because it was raining, and the person who was hosting us there, she'd been working there for a few months at the Duclos Lodge, and she said that she'd never seen the waterfalls come down. And so it was really cool that we got to share that with them. But would you talk a bit about the group that was there at the lodge that we met with, the face-to-face group?
Sure.
It relates to the shofar.
It does. So it was really interesting. We met with essentially the worship team that opened and did worship throughout the conference that Christine was teaching. And they worshipped like I've never seen before. I'll just say that. Maybe a quarter of what they did had words. There was a lot of drumming. There was a lot of just being led and just pouring out everything.
Freedom.
It was definitely freedom. But so this worship team consisted of the owner of this lodge, the general manager of this lodge, and another gentleman who works there. And they all live there. They all live in community. So they live on site. They make it a point to, they have intentional community. So it's not that they just live there and work there and worship there. They're very intentional about their community and being one as a body. So every Sunday night they have a worship night, and these guys lead. And it's different every time. But during one of the breaks, I'm not even sure why this guy was supposed to talk to me. Christine sent this guy to talk to me, one of the guys who was on the worship team.
I'll tell you why. Okay. It's because the truth is, we have very different gifts in the Spirit, and mine is not discernment. Okay? So I struggled with that, and we had a warning that there would be some people who might try to get up and try to say things that were kind of false prophets, if you will. And so even though this guy was the leader of this thing, I still didn't know him, and I recognized that I don't have the gift of discernment. And so he had a word that he felt like he needed to share. And I said, okay, go talk to Kim. Because she does have that, and I wasn't telling him that I was vetting him. But really the truth is I didn't want to just let anybody get up there and talk if they weren't supposed to. So I sent him to her so that she would be able to tell, because she's better at this thing.
It's really funny because she thought it was for discernment, but it was for connection in the spirit, honestly.
Okay.
This guy came and talked to me. His name was Francois. Two of them are named Francois, two of the three. So it was one of them. And he came and he talked to me and he said, I just really feel like I need to share this, or if you can share this. The Lord has just been showing us this whole big plan of what this lodge is for. It's for this place of restoration for the body and for refreshing and refueling. And we just really want it to be a place that people can come and rest and get filled back up so that they can go back out into ministry. If you know the source and you know any of our story, I'm like, oh my gosh, you are us. You are us in South Africa. We have this same blueprint. This is crazy. And so we really connected over that, but they have even had as much as they have a big sign, because they're out in the middle of nowhere, really, outside of Cape Town, up in the mountains. And there's a big sign that shows 14 miles to the De Cove Lodge. And somebody has written on there, the airport of heaven. And there was another one, there's something else that somebody wrote.
Something like a post office.
Oh yeah, it's like the post office of heaven or something.
Yeah, but whoever wrote it was not them, and it was where it couldn't be removed.
Right.
And so anyway.
And it was there before they bought it.
Yeah, they believed that it was like angels or something, but they weren't really sure. They just said.
Well, it's very prophetic because they are so much connected in the heavenly bodies. I mean, like in the heavenly realms. They are essentially releasing the sound of heaven. And I don't know how to explain that more fully. But if you can just imagine, they are truly just releasing what's going on there into the earth. And so it's really amazing. So when I was talking to this Francois, he was telling me about this. We really connected over this. And I didn't even know I was supposed to vet this guy, because we immediately connected in the spirit and there was no vetting to be done. So as we were talking, he was talking about how one of the cool things that was happening in worship is there were some kids who were there, and they would get up and they would get on. They had a bunch of different djembes, and they would get up and start playing with them. And it wasn't a distraction, and it wasn't a pain. It was powerful. And he was talking to me about this. He said, I love it when people bring their kids. Everyone thinks it's such a hassle to have them in service because they're going to distract and they're going to be a mess or whatever. But he said they connect so much better to the spirit, and they open things up for all the adults to then connect better too. And I said, this is really cool, because we had just started Friday night services. And on our first service, for those of you who were here, Illy, who's 3 today, you saw her. So Illy opened up the service by blowing the shofar. That one, because we didn't have this one. And it was powerful, and it broke some things open. And it's something that if I would have done it, it wouldn't have done the same, So I was talking to him about this, and he said, the Lord just told me what I need to do to bless you guys. And so at the end of the whole conference, before they started doing worshiping, because then they worshiped for probably 4 or 5 hours longer, which was awesome. It was not like, oh, when are we going to stop? It was like, oh, I need this. This is so good.
It really was like that. And sometimes it's hard to be in worship for that long, and it was not hard. It was just like more, and the Spirit was so moving, and there's so much freedom that you could just totally be yourself, and it was amazing, really.
It was remarkable. Yeah. So at the end, he came and he brought his shofar, and he just told us about it, and he said, this is a shofar that the animal was hunted, and we took the horn and we made it into the shofar. We put the mouthpiece on it. We fashioned it into what it is. It has been used to release all kinds of things over the nation. They had just had a political election, which is a really big deal there, a week before we got there, maybe. And so he had used it to blow over the election and really release kingdom into whatever was going to happen. And he had done it for this big prayer thing that was a nationwide, you know how we have citywide prayer in Wichita? It's like that, but it's for the whole nation. So like 5 million people there, all praying for the restoration of their country and things. And so he blew this there to release stuff. And so he was telling us just kind of the significance of the horn. And he's like, and I just really want to blow this over you. And so he did, and it was, I've never heard a sound like that from a shofar. It was so good. And then he said, but the Lord told me I need to give this to you.
Which was so special.
Yeah, it's true. We both cried. But it was very touching. We're already very humbled by the Lord that he would even send us there to do his work, because we're just these people from Kansas who don't have anything. I mean, we don't have connection. We do now. We have connections over there now, but we didn't have connections over there. We didn't have anything to do with South Africa, and yet he still said go. So we're already really humbled by that. But for somebody who has such a heart for his own nation and has been releasing things over his own nation and doing kingdom work there, to then give us this tool that really was so special. It was very meaningful to us.
You're gonna have to keep talking because I'm crying.
So anyway, we were only in Cape Town for a couple of days, but we stayed through all the worship, and then the next morning we were able to say goodbye and everything. And those 3 guys, the Francois and John, or Jon, we just became very connected with them in the spirit. Among other people as well, because everywhere we went, we made just very immediate, deep relationships. But with these 3 guys in particular, there was a ministering connection between us, in that I believe, and I know we talked about it before we left, I believe they will be traveling with us. So we will teach and they will worship and release the stuff that the Lord has to release in whatever place we go.
Man, I gotta tell you about this. So we're sitting there at lunch or dinner or something, I don't know, with all of them, and just all the people who were at the conference. And I just remember going, oh, God, would you please just send them to be with us wherever we go? And I was like, oh man, they'd never come to the United States. And, I just did this. And then later on, they were receiving stuff in the spirit the whole time. And who I would consider, I don't know, there's not really a main guy, but there's, I guess, they all play different roles. But this one guy who's like, I really connected with, because he functions so much like me in the heavenly realms. And so anyway, he was talking about how the Lord was releasing all this stuff, and I got to talk to him privately about it all, and we shared so many awesome stories of the Spirit and that sort of thing. And then he said, well, I really believe that God just told us that we need to start traveling. And I was just like, with us? And he said, actually, I think so. And I'm like, yes. And I said, even to the United States? And he's like, yeah, maybe. And I'm like, wow. And so anyway, that would be so awesome. But it was just such a blessing. Like, I feel like the Lord just was knowing my heart and answering me. I don't know if that's actually true, but that's how it felt. And so that was really special. But there we just had a lot of really good ministry time. And it was a long day. I'll tell you that the night before, the night before, I started losing my voice. And note, the next day I was supposed to teach for 12 hours. And so it was like, I can't do this. And then we wake up the next morning and have a text from our dad saying that our grandma had a stroke. And it was like, really? And, so many things. We had a lot of little weird things trying to get us off.
It's true. The electric, some breaker blew and nobody could find it in the whole place. And so just Lisa, myself, and Christine were affected by this, and nobody else. No other rooms were affected. It was just us. We couldn't use any electricity for things.
I had something blow up in my room, and
as she was blowing up her air mattress, the air compressor blew up.
Yeah, literally. Oh my God. It was amazing. And so we just had a lot of weird stuff like that happen. But the next day, it was just, funny thing is, God, all that he was talking about was fire. And so, yes, I had smoke in my room before that, but at least,
it was really cool.
It was.
It was really during the worship, but there was so much released in the atmosphere and over the country. And it is like
tons of angelic presence.
It's true, and this is really awesome. Jonathan was worshiping with us through almost all of the trip, just like he did last time. And he's just such a vital part of our team. Like, I know you're here, but you're just so vital to what we're doing, because what you're getting is what we're getting, and all this stuff gets released. And
it does something for us. I gotta say, it really does, because at times it's a confirmation, and at other times it's very prophetic.
Right.
And so, I would say at the beginning it was just real confirmation to us, and then the last day, I'm a little skipping, but the last day, I jump, you just have to follow me. So anyway, the last day when you said that the Lord just kind of released you to that this is all that there was, but you had like 2 songs that you gave to us. Do you remember that? Kim's like, okay, great. And in my heart, I'm like, but the real mission is tomorrow. This is what I was doing in my heart, I'll be honest. And so anyway, I was trusting you because you are really close to the Lord, but it was like, man. And then the next day we had this kind of what we knew we went for, and the Lord had told us before that worship was warfare for us. A lot of us have heard that, but that was something that was kind of a word for us, that was the case. And
it started in Cape Town with the releasing of the fire.
Yeah.
And I began seeing just armies and armies of angels starting to march, just flooding the land and seriously taking back things and releasing things. And it was all about fire. I mean, the Lord told me that within the next couple days it's going to start raining fire from the sky, probably literally. But it's really good and cleansing and restoring and everything. I just had to say this before you got to the rest of it. Go on.
You can't tell we're sisters, can you? And you're married. But I wanted to say that the last day, when you weren't worshiping over us, everything that you did was very prophetic to that time. And so the Lord would say this song, and it was one that you sent, and it would just be very clear, this is what we're declaring over the land, or whatever it was. And so anyway, worship was really important to us the whole time. And so thank you, kid. Keep going.
Okay, so Cape Town, that was pretty much Cape Town. there is just a lot of stuff released. It all had to do with fire. The Lord showed me, he gave me kind of an aerial view, and I don't care if this sounds crazy, just trust me. Okay, he gave me this aerial view over the country, and he showed me all of these little dots of light, and they're like little cells, essentially. And he just showed me that he's igniting all of these people all over the place, but he's keeping them isolated for the time being, because there has to be something, I don't know what it is, but there's something that is going to be released, and then he's going to start connecting all of these flames, and then it's going to be this light that can't be sustained, or that can't be contained. And it was remarkable, because it seems like every person we met at these conferences was like, but I'm out in this town and nobody else is like this, and nobody functions like I do, nobody believes in the power of the Lord, nobody's doing this, and I'm just alone, and I know there's this stuff on the internet that I can connect with, but I really need a community, and I just am so isolated. And it just lined up with what he showed me. And so it was really good to be able to encourage people that I get that you're isolated now, but it is not going to be forever. Like, he is really doing a work here, and he really, really is. And so that can lead us into Sasselberg.
Okay. Well, I just want to say before that one of the things, so we went knowing that we would do these conferences, and we also went knowing that we had this mission at the Vol Triangle. And before we went, we really didn't even know what the Vol Triangle was exactly. He just said Vol Triangle. We ended up looking it up. And really, he started doing this mostly with Lisa, who isn't here tonight, but she lives out in Ulysses, Kansas, so like 3.5 hours away or something. So she's not always able to be here. But anyway, started speaking to her about the Vol Triangle. She said, hey, do you guys know about the Vol Triangle? We're like, what is that? And so we all looked it up and then asked them questions and stuff like that, and found out a lot about it before we went, but not nearly as much as what we did while we were there. But what the Lord was leading us to do was a lot of different kind of ministry, and we didn't really know what it was going to be like. But we had people who were hosting us, setting up different things, and we had a lot of, while we were in Cape Town, we met with different people that we were connected with already from the ministry that we do here. And so that was nice, but then it was not only nice, it was wonderful, okay, I won't lie. But then when we went, we flew back to Johannesburg, and from there went to Sasselberg. I don't know if you guys remember the trip that we went last year to South Africa, but Sasselberg was kind of our home base. And so it was again like that. It was our home base again, and we didn't really know what we would be doing except for something to do with the Vol Triangle. And so he gave us each different purposes, maybe parts of the body. In fact, we were just talking last night about how it kind of did turn out to be really like parts of the body, because Lisa was the eyes, Kim was the ears, and I was the mouth. And it was like that the whole time. And in fact, we were kind of, in fact, Kim was told specifically from God, you're not supposed to speak. You can talk to people, but you're not supposed to speak, like be the mouthpiece. And that was exactly what was happening.
It probably looked really ridiculous. We're like in these meetings and people are asking questions and we're praying about things, and I'm like, but I won't say anything. But I couldn't. He told me I couldn't speak, and so I didn't.
Yeah, but it was really cool how we all worked together with what the Lord was showing, and we met with many different people. We started out the day we got to Sasselberg. The very next morning, we got there in the night. The next morning, she's like, okay, 7 o'clock meeting. And so we have the 7 a.m. meeting with this group of women who's called, like they meet together, called Intimacy of God or something like that. I don't know. But it was these women that we had seen last time and connected with to an extent, but we got to meet with them and catch up about what was happening in Sasselberg since we were there. And Kim, would you talk a little bit about that? Like maybe give an example of how things have changed in Sasselberg and like Joey and things like that.
Sure. So since the last time we went, when we went last time, Christine did a conference about engaging heaven, and everybody there was just ready. And since we left, they've just taken off. So as a city, not as a church or a couple of churches, but as a city, they've really embraced seeking the Lord for the redemptive purpose of their city. And so they've been doing this, and they've been doing this for themselves as well, and seeking, like, what is it, Lord, that you really want me to do? Where is my identity? What is it? What did you make me for? And so it probably wasn't even a month after we left last time, and I get an email from our friend Joey. Sarah is like best friends with Joey. But I think she's an insurance agent, right? She's an insurance agent. She works in the business sector, but she emailed me and told me that the Lord really broke something open when we were there, and he has shown her that what she is for the body is she is to wash people's feet, is to get low and just speak blessings over them while she's washing feet. And so what she started doing is on weekdays, I don't think it's every day of the week, but it's like weekly, she closes up shop for a minute, goes out onto the sidewalk and just starts washing people's feet, and praying blessings over them, and speaking out truth about what the Father says about them. And it's been really powerful. And this is just one example of how the city is changing and aligning with what the Lord has for them, and how they're stepping into who they are and who they're made to be in order to build the whole body up.
Yeah, and it's what's been really neat to see is that since we were there the last time, they received some different blueprints from the Lord. Basically, here are the plans I have for you, and this is what I want you to walk out. And they received some things, one of which was a blueprint for discipleship for their city. And so they have these 3 pastors who basically I don't know how to say this, they govern the blueprint, they steward the blueprint for the whole city, and they pray over the whole city. They go, God, what do you want us to do? And they're like a Baptist pastor and a Methodist pastor and a non-denom pastor. And they all meet together, and they just engage in heaven and say, what do you want for us? And it's really amazing what has happened then. So they got this blueprint for discipleship, and it was really clear, like, you need to do this and this and this and this. And they started this thing called Love 1947. So 1947 is their, well, kind of like a zip code that we have here, okay? So 1947 is their zip code. So
There's a really cool story behind that.
Are you wanting to tell them?
I do.
Okay, go for it.
So one of the pastors, the Baptist pastor, his name is Bram, and he is an amazing man of God. He is like the father of that city. He has just such a heart for the Lord and such a heart for the people. But in the early 90s, he was praying, and the Lord told him that he was going to oversee 1947. And he's like, what is 1947? And the Lord showed him, this is where you live, it's 1947. Well, that had nothing to do with Sasselberg at that time. And then I think it was in the early 2000s, for whatever reason, they changed the postal code to 1947. And he was like, oh my God. And so he's like, this is really a thing, you know? Not that he didn't believe before, but like, what a huge confirmation. And so the Lord just kept talking to him, 1947, 1947. And so this is what really sparked I love 1947, and that's why that is such a significant number. It's not like us saying ICT because it's the airport call letters. It is like, it's a very prophetic thing for them.
Yeah. So they have this live broadcast that they do with Bram, that pastor, and this other lady who was a Reformed pastor, and now is just kind of does ministry everywhere. So she's not really attached to a certain church or anything. But these two people do this broadcast every week that they do on different platforms together, but it's part of the discipleship blueprint. And so they're really discipling people and bringing them through this process of discipleship, finding out what their identity is and how to walk as a son and what is your mandate. And so they're helping people learn like what they're made for and how to walk that out. And so the city's starting to transform in everyone walking out their mandates. And so that's what has been really cool. And so when we met with people, we were part of that broadcast. They had us be a part of it, which was a surprise. Hey, by the way, you're gonna do this in an hour. Anyway, that's kind of how it worked for us. And everything we were doing was just, what do we do now? Okay. And so we met with business leaders. They had us meet with a bunch of business leaders to talk about not just having a kingdom business, but a business but doing business from the kingdom, for the kingdom, from the kingdom. And so anyway, it's just a mind shift, but we got to sit and talk with them and really minister to them. And we met with a governmental leader and saw him just really come into his identity as king and priest, part of the royal priesthood, all of that, and it was awesome. And he has such a heart for the city. His name is Tobiso, and his heart is to see the unity happen. So right there, they've always been divided, especially politically in that nation. And so that was happening, and they were having to have these elections again, city elections this time, or I don't know if it's city or area anyway, elections and
like county.
Yeah, but what they do is they have to have like a 50+1 for anything to go through. And they hadn't had that in a long time, so they were about to shut it all down.
It's because they have like 7 or 8 parties.
Yeah.
And so when they all vote, it's really hard to get a 50%+1.
Yeah, so we were praying over that, and he said, it looks impossible, but we know with God anything is possible, and we really want this to continue to function, because when it all shuts down, then they have no sort of city services at all. So like no trash, no water, all of this that we kind of take for granted. This just happens. That stuff totally has to shut down because there's no budget for it, because there's no leadership presenting budget and all of this. And so it was a big deal for them to have that continue. And so we just, prayed with him, and he came to a bunch of our stuff to learn about engaging heaven and all of that. And we got news when we got back that everything passed. And so it was a huge deal. I hadn't happened in years, so that was a big deal for them. So that was really cool.
That was cool.
We met with a lot of different groups. I don't know, who else did we meet with?
I went to the Methodist Church and met with a big group there.
And an intercessory group at another church.
Oh, yeah.
We just had a whole lot of discipleship sort of meetings. So we met with the leaders of the city we talked to you about, and
we met with our friend Neville again, who is kind of carrying the new covenant that happened last time, if you remember. But he's also this guy who's really high up politically in the government.
In the national
government. He's on a committee that's writing their new constitution. So he and 7 or 8 other guys. And so he has a lot of influence there, and he has been just releasing this new stuff for South Africa, this alignment with the Lord, this freedom with the Lord, all of this stuff. And he was super busy. We didn't see him a whole lot because he was going to different places and giving speeches.
But the cool thing is, when we met with him, it was about our mission to the Ball Triangle. And so he was one who gave a lot of, this is what happens here. Maybe you should go to these places. Because what the Lord had shown us about the Ball Triangle was that there was all of this, there was all of demonic stuff that had been ruling there because of all the witchcraft. They have tons of tribal witchcraft there.
Yeah.
And so this is something it's ingrained in the government, it's ingrained in all of their society pretty much. And
and people who are in it, children of people who are in it, can't really get out. There's not a choice. You are bred into it. And it's
you can get out, it's just really hard. It's kind of like
very,
if you would, convert from Islam or something. It's very difficult to convert because when you do, then they come after you. And so anyway, at the Vol Triangle, what the Lord was showing me was about the waters more than anything. He showed me about the waters, and there are I don't know if you remember before, but when we went to South Africa last year, right before we went, one of the things that the Lord had us do, and it wasn't really us, he did it with us, I should say, he just did it and we were part of it, but it was about releasing the waters there because there was this huge drought, and so he had the waters released, and at that time, after we experienced this in the Spirit, I was like so excited about what happened. I talked to my friend. She goes, "No way, it's raining here. Everyone's standing out in the rain. It's pouring. It's starting to flood." And so this is what we experienced in the Spirit. And so we were real excited about this. But we're so naive to witchcraft. We had no idea that it was this certain witchcraft tribe that was holding back the waters. And so they were pretty ticked at us for basically smashing these curses, if that makes sense. And so we didn't realize that we were kind of just stirring up things there. And it wasn't really us, the Lord was doing it. But anyway, so in the meantime, we found out that there was this tribe who was controlling all the waters in South Africa. That's what they're known for. And so they, not only the waters of rain, but also all of the rivers, all the water. And so people started being sent to my ministry who had converted out of that tribe. And so it was the Lord sending them. No one told them to come, okay? So the Lord sent these people to us who were converting out of this tribe. And in fact, before we went this time, there were these 3 sisters who their brother was killed by his wife who was in that tribe. And anyway, it was just a lot of stuff that happened in the meantime. We went there, and the Lord has shown us all of these marine spirits, which, here we're like, marine spirits, what the heck is that? And so, we aren't really knowing about these things except for the Lord showing us that there are these spirits in the water and that they're basically tainting all of the water and causing lots of trouble.
And the Vol Triangle is significant in this because it's this area of 3 cities that are at the kind of source of the Vol River, and the Vol River supplies all of the water to all of South Africa.
Or the majority of South Africa. And there's this dam that is there at the Vol Triangle that holds all the water that's then released. And at this dam is this huge witchcraft altar that they have that they do all these sacrifices and everything at this to control the water. And not only that, but these marine spirits, we didn't know this when we went, but this is what we were told while we were there, that they have these certain places at the Vol Triangle where basically people go to these witch doctors who then say because it's part of society, they know if they want prosperity, then they need to go into the river to have these spirits take them over so that they will be prosperous. And so these spirits that are in there do that. And so anyway, of course we know that's all demonic. They don't understand such things. They're, that's their religion, if you will. And so we didn't know all that before we went. We just were shown these marine spirits. And so I know that I felt like my purpose was to change the water and all of that, and to take care of the spirits that were in the water. Kim's main purpose was the atmosphere, like to break open the atmosphere and deal with everything in the atmosphere. And Lisa's purpose was to plant these things in the earth around there, like these seeds of life and fountains of living water, okay? That's what she was told. And I know it all sounds goofy, but this is something that I'm telling you the Lord did, and it was we had physical and tangible evidence of this stuff happening, which was really awesome and wild. Because what happened was we went first to this one location. We were told to go to these 3 towns that create the Vol Triangle, and then to go to these certain locations at the Vol Triangle to release whatever the Lord would have us release, right? So we went there, and the Lord had given us certain things that we knew we were supposed to release at some point, words that He had given us, declarations, if you will. And so when we went, we didn't really know what we were doing. We were just going there to pray, and He told us to blow the shofar, right? So when we went the first time, we actually forgot to bring the shofar again, if you could believe that. And then we left it back at the place. But what we did is we just, in the spirit, blew the shofar. Linda knows about that. She was the shofar blower in the spirit, in the natural too. Yeah, anyway, so when we did that, it was a really powerful thing that happened, declaring this over the land, and we started to feel nature respond. But it was one of those things that, maybe we could, I'm like this, I'm a skeptic, so I'm like, maybe I can explain this away, that it's just the breeze coming through, whatever, this is what I do. And so I'm not proud of that. It's just, I have a tendency to be skeptical. And so anyway, then we went the next day to the first location was at the Vol River, right? No, it was in the middle of the 3 rivers, right? There were 3 rivers that go into the Vol River. Okay, so it's like, well, no, that's part of it. But anyway, there are these 3 rivers that meet. And so in between that is one of the main altars, the witchcraft altars. So we went there, and the Lord just immediately started working through all of us, and I would say more than anything through Bram, the pastor we were telling you about, who's like the father of the city. He has just been pressing in a lot about, how Jesus said that you will do all these things and greater, right? Well, one of the things that the Lord's just been impressing on him to pursue is about how creation served Jesus. That creation responded to Jesus and served him. So if you remember, even someone caught the fish with the tax money and stuff like that, just all of creation would constantly serve him. And so he said, if we're a son too, if Jesus was the firstborn of many, and I'm a son, then creation should serve me too. And so that's what he's been pressing into a lot. And he's a humble guy. It doesn't really sound humble. He's very humble. Okay, he doesn't parade around talking about this a lot. But what happened was he really took his authority in the spirit, and creation started to respond. And we would just walk, and it's like the manifest sons of God are here, is how it felt. And the birds started responding. And then even when we were doing this, he just commanded the water to serve the Lord, and and commanded all of that. He just spoke to the water, and he said, "Attention, come to attention for the Lord." And anyway, it was really amazing what started happening. We started seeing things change in the water, and it was different. I can't even explain to you how it was. It was just totally different. And then Kim blew the shofar because the atmosphere changed, right? And it was so powerful. It started echoing everywhere. And for me, I was like, wow, this must be a really amazing area. So this is what I do. And so anyway,
And the wind started to blow. And and then we went to another area. And we went to 3 different areas that day, right? We went to the place where Nelson Mandela was shot. And
He was not shot there.
he was not shot there, never mind.
We went to Starkville, which is kind of like Eastboro, how it's in the middle of the city. It's another town kind of in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
But there was a massacre there 59 years ago. And it was people of different races fighting for different rights. And there was so much innocent bloodshed there that they said the rivers ran red. And the ground was saturated in blood. And it was
they call it a massacre because it was a massacre. And then when Nelson Mandela was released from prison, this is the place he went, and he stood there and gave this speech. And so it's a very significant place for restoration and reconciliation. So that's what the place was called.
And you received 4 words from the Lord at that time, right? What were they, do you remember?
It was peace, unity,
Reconciliation and restoration.
restoration, and reconciliation.
Right? Yeah. And these were things that were very significant. And that was really about the planting in the land there. And we started singing, which was really weird because there were all these people standing around who were not part of what we were doing at all.
Because there's a memorial set up there, and it's like outside of the community center, and so there were a lot of people that
Just standing there, yeah. So anyway, we were there and we were releasing all of these things from the Lord, and blew the shofar again, and it was more echoes that time, and everything started shifting with the wind again. And then the final place we went was the dam that we talked about that was so significant. And when we went there, it was really about claiming the nations and about that being a starting place for all of the nations to start responding to the Lord and having unity again and all of this. And so we were just declaring these things, and we were singing a song that Jonathan had sent, and it was really powerful, and we started seeing the waters start moving differently. And then when Kim blew the shofar, it literally echoed for miles.
It did. It was, so I blew it 3 times because that's what I was supposed to do. But I would wait in between until it stopped echoing, and it was probably 15 to 20 seconds worth of standing there and waiting, because honestly, nature was responding.
Yeah, it was totally different than anything I've ever experienced. And then we started seeing the water. There were like rainbows appearing in the water, and I don't know, there were all these things that started happening, and of course the wind again, and all of this, and
it was cool because we were looking for the wind, but some of the people with us didn't know that, and they're like, "Oh, the wind's blowing again."
Yeah,
and the wind just picked up.
It was really interesting. And then after we came back, we got a message from one of the businessmen who came along with us, Eddie, and he messaged us with a picture of the water and said, "I went to visit the river and it's completely clear and all of the slime is gone." And so this river was full of this bright green slime. And anyway, he sent us a picture, and I wish we had the
2 or 3
pictures.
days after we
Yeah, it was only a couple days after when we came home. And before we had pictures while we were there, and you can see the bright green in the water behind us, because I was just looking at it before we came in. And then I saw the picture of it, and it is clear as can be.
Wow.
It's just amazing. And so what we saw was something that, what the Lord was showing us, that he was replacing that with his living water, and that would flow into every home, and that would be something that would change things. And so, yeah, it's going to heal the nation. It's just amazing how he could do that. God knows. He made all of creation to serve him. I just know that whatever it is that he sends us to do, we don't always understand it at all. But if we're obedient, he will use us in a way that is very, it's impactful, and it's also powerfully changing our lives. I was talking about one of the most powerful things for me. I see everybody getting tired, okay? If you're tired of us talking, you just leave. It's fine. Don't be offended. It's fine. Anyway, I just want to say that for me, freedom was the theme for me personally. I think it was good that we started out in Cape Town with this really free worship that then allowed me to teach completely freely without worrying about what people were going to think. And one of the greatest things for me is going to a place with people I don't know, because then I go, I'll never see him again anyway. I'm just be who I am, take it or leave it. And so that's what I was doing, and I was freer than I've ever been. I just, spoke exactly what the Lord said. I didn't care what people thought. And what was awesome was everyone responded in a good way. It was totally, people responded to the Lord really powerfully because I wasn't holding back. And then that happened the whole time. The entire time we were doing ministry for probably 12 hours a day, generally. We were doing ministry that much every single day. And so I just was free, and everybody was. We were free to just be who we were supposed to be. Nothing else. And I think what I carried back with me is I'm not going to be worried about if people think I'm weird anymore. I don't really care. Every single person in the Bible was weird. Yeah. Really. I didn't find a normal one in there. And I'm going to be that person, and I don't really care what people think about it, because I'm not going to be a people pleaser. I'm going to be a God pleaser. And so for me, I'm tired of holding back, and I've been doing it for a long time. Way too long. So anyway, you might hear weird things come out of my mouth now and again. And I'm sure you probably already thought that I was weird, but get ready. So the Lord has a lot to do, and especially when we saw what the Lord could do over, especially Sasselberg, when he could totally transform a city because we weren't holding back and we were just doing what God told us to do. Totally in love, we don't want anything back, just whatever God wants to do, that's what we want to do. And then to see how they've just taken that and ran, and to see their city transformed. I want this city transformed, Thank you. I want to see every city in the world transformed. I've heard a lot of people say, why do you have to go to another country to do it? Why don't you do it here? Well, I'll tell you, I actually do it here about every day. I do. And not only that, but God cares about every city all over the world. Not only the cities, the people out on the farms. He cares about everybody all over the world. And it's not just about us. And so if God tells you to go, one, he's going to provide the way. And then you go and you do whatever he says to do. And if he doesn't tell you what to do, you go anyway. And then he'll tell you what to do. I remember we were going to the next spot at the Ball Triangle, and Kim says, so do you know a song that we're supposed to sing? And I'm like, I can't even barely talk. No way. There's no song. I don't know. I don't have a song. And then we walk up there, and we're literally walking up to the water, and the Lord says, you need to sing Break Every Chain, which is language, just saying that. But, and I was like, well, never mind, I have a song. And I said, we're supposed to sing Break Every Chain. And Kim said, that's what he told me too. Very cool. But this is what happens, like every time I think, I don't have anything. I don't know what to do. And then he just, at the moment, tells you exactly what to do. And so, anyway, I really felt like this was a big deal. We were asked to, by a pastor who Kim connected with last time. I was in another city at the same time as she was in that city before. But she connected with this pastor from Charlottesville, that same place where the massacre happened. And anyway, he asked us to come back in March for the 60th anniversary because he's going to do a big reconciliation service. And he knows that that's our heart, is reconciliation. And so we prayed about it, because most of the time we're like, I don't know, if God says to, then we will. But this is how I prayed about it. I said, hey God, he goes, yeah. And I was like, okay, good. It was like that for me too, which was really surprising. He never really tells us this far in advance, which is it's true. Ever. And so that was really nice and surprising. So now we know we're going back in March, but yeah, it was really, really powerful, and I just hope that every single person will walk out who they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to do, in complete freedom, and quit thinking about what other people want to hear. because you don't even know what you want to hear until the Lord stirs it up in you anyway. And so if we can just walk in who we're supposed to be and continue to do that, it will be powerful. And I came back, one of the things I told Jason, you might be hearing more from me because when I was there, I was the mouth because that's who God created me to be, actually. And I recognized I don't get the opportunity to really do that here. Not like I'm supposed to, because I can talk like this, but this isn't really where the Lord uses me the most, is a chatting kind of place. Even though I enjoy doing it, it's really in a teaching from the Spirit kind of place. And I don't know how to say that, but there are times when I said, I'm sorry, I can't sit, I have to stand up. And so I'll be standing up for 12 hours straight teaching because that's where the Spirit takes me over, and it's not me, it's the Lord. And so I definitely want to be used more like that here. Because I know that that's where the Spirit's powerful. It's not when I'm just chatting. So anyway, not saying that this was bad. I'm just saying that the Spirit of the Lord has a whole lot more for people. And He wants to draw out of you your true identity and have you start walking in that power every day. And wants you to keep going and not worry about anything. Not worry about how He'll provide for you or how you're going to do it or if you're going to have people who will care. He will put people right in front of you. Even if it's at the grocery store, He'll put people in front of you to where you will be able to powerfully serve them in whatever capacity you're meant to. And so there are people who have different roles, and it's important to be that. And to not think that if you're not a mouth, that you're not important. Because there are people who just need to wash feet. And that's something that, I don't really feel called to do. And it's okay if I don't feel called to do it. I'm not supposed to do everything. And so there are things that we need to step into that's only for us. And if somebody else says, hey, that's not my thing, go, well, what is your thing? We just need to empower one another to walk in our individual mandates.
Yes. I have one more thing about the trip. She just preached, and then I feel like I should still be talking about this, but there's one more important thing. So the day before we left, we had this big conference. But one of the things that we did there that was really, really powerful, number one, it was on a day that was the inauguration day. So there had been these elections a couple weeks before we came. But that day was when they were putting this new president into office. And so we, being the, 70 people who were there, joined a big circle and we prayed and we just started speaking life over the nation and over the leaders and over the politicians and over the new president, and just really listening to the Lord and just speaking out His heart for the whole place. And it was really powerful. It was really, really powerful. And then the next day when we're at the airport, we're talking to Audrey, who was our host, and she is such a vital part of our team too, but she lives there. We were talking to Audrey, and then another friend of ours met us at the airport, the vet, and we got this video of, I think it was a Supreme Court justice.
I couldn't tell you.
I think it was
a different roles.
I think it was a Supreme Court justice that was being sworn in, and they gave him the stage or whatever to say whatever it is he needed to say, and he got down on his knees and he just started praying, and then he started speaking in tongues. And like his being sworn in, this is what he's doing. And so we are immediately seeing shifts in the leadership there, and they're being bold and they're really stepping into serving the Lord while they serve the country. And I believe with all that I have that this country, just remember South Africa. I think it's going to be on your radar more. I think we're going to start hearing more about things that are breaking out there in a good way. Recently it's been, the last however many years, it's been pretty bad there.
But I really believe the Lord is doing a huge work there, and He's releasing stuff there that's going to then be released to the rest of the nations. And so I don't want to be selfish. And I can't hold to this thought that just because I'm here, everything's going to start here. I don't believe that. I believe the Lord's going to start things where He's going to start them, and I believe that's the place He's starting it.
Jeanette. That's all. That's really good. Well, I appreciate everyone's support for us and really praying over us, and also just being friends with us, being the people who we can go, hey, this is happening and we need to talk about it, or we need you to pray for us, or whatever. It's a big deal. And so we do appreciate it a lot. And so if you need that, we want to be that for you.